Hello everyone, my name is Adam Michael Anthony Simpson and you're watching my YouTube channel Adam M.A. Simpson. This is part 2 of my interview with Devin Swiner, and in this portion you get to learn more about her amazing science. So stay tuned and see you at the end. Is there anything else about your road to graduate school or your current experience in graduate school that you'd like viewers to know and understand? Like, is there anything, the first thing that came to mind when I asked that question, what was it?
Honestly, I think something that's kept me going through my PhD is really just mentoring. So I've mentored a lot of undergrads and high school students. It's a lot of them, and I don't think I realized how many it was until my advisor was like, list their names on your CV. Exactly. And I was like, what? And then I wrote them out. I was like, oh, it is a lot of you, huh? Like that's crazy. And like I'm going into my 5th year at 9 or 10 students that it's at right now. And I think people don't realize that that's important, even if, the undergrads don't go into the same type of chemistry or academia, that you're doing, giving them that exposure and kind of helping develop them as independent scientists, I think is so important. And that's the one thing that I push when I have undergraduates or even high school students. I don't just give them like busy work. It's like, no, like I want you to understand why we're doing what we're doing. Like I want you to feel free and open to ask me questions. One of my undergrads was infamous for every week asking me a question I had no answer to. And I would look at him like, really, George? Like, all right, I'm gonna get back to you, but I don't know right now.
Well, that's a good thing. Like, that's good. Yeah.
And I was happy. I was happy that he was like critically thinking about what we were doing and then was able to challenge me like, oh, well, what about this? And I was like, I didn't think about that. But thank you for bringing that up because now I have to go think about it. Yeah. So it keeps me honest and keeps me on my toes and makes and kind of reinforces to me that I understand like what I'm doing. So I think just being open to helping undergraduates and like mentoring them, even if it's in an unofficial capacity, is so important. And that's shaped a lot of my PhD, honestly. Like my undergrads have done just as much work on my project as I've done because that's how I was as an undergraduate. My grad student made sure that I was actually in the lab, learning things, doing the data analysis. So I was understanding. So that's what I do for mine. So yeah, I think that's really, for me, what's been so fruitful and so affirming as a scientist, that you can teach others and then they can kind of go away with something really valuable.
Awesome. And so now I'm going to pivot into the second portion of the interview, which is how does your research impact society at large? So on your professional website, I saw that you published 3 articles as first author, which is amazing. One was a review on mass spectrometry for clinical diagnostics, published this year. And you already received 6 citations, which is like quick turnaround. 2 on ricin, a potent toxin.
Ricin.
Ricin? Okay, good. And another one published in 2019 on illicit drug detection, which is more in your forensics kind of background, I guess. Explain the importance of your research and the field of analytical chemistry.
So analytical chemists are always interested in trying to find new ways to analyze something. So my work specifically focuses on like this forensic or like clinical diagnostics realm of applications that most analytical chemists study. And I love that because, especially with like my ricin project, it's something very tangible for people to understand. So politicians get sent white powder in the mail. Like that's not, a story that people aren't familiar with. And most times it's ricin. And with ricin, most times it's ricin. And how they detect for it, typically have to like shut everything down, move everybody out of the building, and it takes a long time because ricin is a large protein. But what I wanted to do was, okay, well, I don't want to have to take and wait, at least 24 hours to confirm ricin. Why don't we use small molecules to see if we can do the same thing? And I could do that in 2 minutes. And I think for me, the impact is because I can cut down on time, cut down on resources with something legitimately as simple as a piece of thread is so cool because it's something that's easy to do. Like I like creating this method and like further validating it because it's simple. Like you don't have to have, a PhD in chemistry to do this. I've done all of the hard work, figured out how it works for people. And it'd be simple to, automate and also simple to execute. So I think that's really beneficial because a lot of analytical chemistry with mass spec is gearing towards, can we do these things in the field? Like, do we have to have things like in like these fancy labs with all these instruments? Can we take, the science to them? So, and that's all I've been working on is trying to find a creative way to take science to, the people that actually need, this diagnostic work or even like forensics.
Awesome. That's so cool. And that's what you're doing in the intro videos.
Yeah. Cutting thread and capillaries.
Yeah, I'm so happy. I'm so happy that's what you're... Oh, God, this is going to make the episode so good. Okay.
Yeah, it's that simple.
Wow. Okay. And I'm hoping... Like, do you have, like, a patent on this?
Yeah, we have a patent for it.
That's amazing. That's so cool. Oh, wow.
I know, I told me that. I'm like, look, it's just thread. And they're like, wait, what? Like, I promise you, I went to a fabric store and bought a spool of thread. And that is all my PhD is based off of. The same spool I bought when I first started, the same spool I'm still using. So, like,
so
same
cool.
one.
Wow, that's so applicable. Awesome. And so, do you see yourself as a professor in the long run? Or how do you want to impact society with your PhD? You've already made an impact, I should say, but like, how do you want to continue post-graduating with your PhD?
So I don't want to be a professor. And I get that question a lot. They're like, well, why not? You have all of these things. I'm like, I don't necessarily want, I don't want to say the headache of like grant writing and mentoring a bunch of students. But when I joined my research lab, my advisor didn't have tenure yet. So we watched him go through that process and we all are like, no, just no. Like that's a lot, and trying to keep track of all the students, make sure we have money, things like that. I'm a lab rat, so I think I want to kind of continue to develop these methods, do this diagnostic work that can impact, a broader society. Because that's really what I like doing. Like I'm an analytical chemist and a method developer by training. So that's how I want to continue to impact, the world with my science. Not saying that like I'm not going to still be doing mentoring and things like that. Like I'm definitely going to still do that. You can't really beat that out of me at all. Yeah. Like, everywhere I go, it's like, all right, well, I'm finding some way to give back to some group of people. So that'll still be the same. But I do like the idea of, creating something from the ground up that has such a wide-reaching applicability to like the wider population. So awesome. Industry is probably where I'm gonna go. Yeah, that's probably where I'm gonna go after that.
And also in industry, you have access to even more analytical equipment usually because they have the big budget.
Yep. Get to play with all the toys. Exactly. That's really why I'm an analytical chemist. I get to play with everything.
Yeah, it does sound cool when you're like, hey, just look at me with this multi-million-dollar instrument.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the reason really that I asked about being a professor is because I saw on your website over 10 students that you've mentored, but again, you don't have to be in academia to be a mentor. You can be a mentor anywhere you go, and you can continue mentoring students while in the industry. So I guess I could move on to, actually, no, you answered this question already. We're going to go on to the curveball question, which is what misconception about graduate school or academia do you want the public to know?
I think when people come to grad school, they think it's going to be very similar to undergrad, and there's like this like linear progression, right? Like you have to take this amount of classes, there are these milestones you have to reach to get a PhD, and that's not the case literally at all. I think a lot of times people think of grad school, they think it's like a collective thing, like, oh, well, like we're in classes, so like we're all doing the same thing. And grad school is very individualized. Like, yes, there's a point where like you're taking classes and like there are milestone exams you have to reach, but the bulk of it is on you. Right? Like the bulk of it is, okay, well, how well am I doing things in the lab? Is my project working or is my project not working? So getting a PhD is really how well can you troubleshoot problems? And I don't think people actually think about it that way because it's so different to like the very conventional schooling that we've all had up until this point. Because it is very based off of you. Like you are in complete control of when you graduate or when you do XYZ. And it's not just like, yes, ideally you're in and out in 5 or like 5.5, whatever, the average is for your program. But you have to make sure that you're checking your own boxes and finding like your own metrics to success that are very different from undergrad where you're just looking for the grade.
Yeah, I agree with that. And on that note, how do you think, you're almost done with your PhD, I'm assuming, because you've already published so many papers. So do you expect to graduate at the end of this academic year, or?
I am out in May. Wow. Officially. That is the agreed upon date.
We all made a plan, and that's when.
Yep, the plan is May. My committee is fine with May. My advisor is fine with May. I'm for sure fine with May. So yeah. I am done.
That's amazing. Well, congrats. I think I'll be here I'll do a 6-year PhD. For multiple reasons, but that's where I see myself. But congrats on
thank you
on your PhD and all your success in not just being a mentor, but also in your science and having amazing science. I think,
thank you. I appreciate that.
Is there any last words you'd want to say in this interview, or do you think you've covered it all? I think you're very articulate, and you brought up things in the questions that I didn't even have to ask.
I was like, okay, wait, like, let me see if I hit everything. I think I hit everything, though.
Yeah.
I don't think I have anything else, yeah.
That's amazing. Okay, well, thank you so much, Devin. I'm going to attach your socials in the interview description, and I hope this is not the last time we get to do something like this.
Of course not. Yeah. Of course not.
Yeah. Amazing. All right. Well, see you, and thank you again.
You're so welcome.
Amazing. Yeah. Thanks for watching the completion of this interview with Devin Swiner. If you liked the whole of this interview, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. It helps to motivate me to produce amazing content and again introduce you guys to amazing people. So stay tuned for next week, and I appreciate all that you guys have done for me so far.